Huge story from the US Center for AI Safety regarding how AI is impacting the remote labor index. And the expectation that you and I have had for months now is that AI is getting so good at automating tasks that remote work will become completely extinct. Hey, you left the big city to go live in a less expensive place? Well, you're screwed because AI is just going to automate that job away. Well, according to the US Center for AI Safety, it turns out that might not actually be the case. But who is this US Center for AI Safety, and is their data reliable? Well, we'll get back to that in just a moment. First, let's hone in on this, double click on this term, the Remote Labor Index. The RLI is a multi-sector benchmark that measures how often AI agents can fully complete real economically valuable remote freelance projects at a quality level that a paying client would accept. Basically, could you just have an AI agent do this entire task and replace a human being? That's what they're testing. And I think that's a relatively good thing to do. In fact, there are definitely things that I'm doing with AI, specifically Claude Cowork, that I used to pay human beings to do. And more on that in a moment, because I think what's important here is understanding the possibilities and the limitations from AI. We've been kind of covering that topic here over previous videos, and if you've been subscribed, you'd be kind of familiar with what's happening in this field and how it's impacting your job. But one of the things that we've been covering here is like, well, companies kind of just expected the AI to automate all their tasks away, fired a bunch of people, and then realized, well, maybe we made a mistake. We talked about how that happened with Meta a few weeks ago. I'll post a link to that video here so you can see how Meta is kind of adjusting to mass layoff mistakes. Anyway, the RLI looks at real projects in real types of tasks like software engineering, architecture, product design, data analysis, marketing, video production, game development. How is AI automating those tasks away? And here's a really interesting and startling data point for all my data junkies out there. The original Remote Labor Index, which was released in 2025, showed that the best AI agents, the very best AI agents in the world, could only automate about 2.5% of jobs. 2.5% of tasks were fully automatable. This is a year ago. Okay, less than a year ago, actually. Anyway, in 2025. But in July 2026, just this past week, they updated it and they found that the frontier model Claude Fable 5 reached 15.8% automation. Guys, that is an 8x improvement. 8x improvement. So that to me is really shocking and kind of a scary kind of concept, and something we've been talking about. Like, this stuff will move slow, and then all of a sudden, once one company figures it out, every company's going to replicate, and we could see jobs and tasks and roles fall like dominoes, which is kind of scary. But there might be a bright edge there. We'll talk about that here in a moment too. In any event, while Claude Fable 5 reached 5.8%, ChatGPT 5.5 reached 6.3%, Opus 4.8, 8.3%. So right now, when it comes to automating tasks away, it seems like Claude and Anthropic's tool has been the best. And again, that quadrupling the automation rate in 8x is really staggering. But so when you see something like this, your natural inclination is, so everyone is going to be replaced and remote work is completely obsolete. Well, not exactly. And according to Reuters, in a comprehensive review of the AI labor market, we're not necessarily seeing mass unemployment, but rather more of a reallocation, increased productivity, firms reorganizing their workflows. AI basically, guys, is changing the way that work gets done. Not necessarily if work is getting done, but the way it gets done. And, AI is really interesting because it has this problem. It's kind of like a genius retard. It's kind of like a Forrest Gump of sorts, right? It's insanely good at some things while being completely oblivious to others. It has these moments of brilliance, but has obvious moments of insanity. When I'm putting together marketing workflows and flow charts and stuff, I can go from 0 to 75% almost instantly. And as I get better at creating context, sharing better first-party and third-party data, as my prompts get more clean, my results get better, but it still just gives you stuff that you're like, where did that come from? I'm not at a place now where I can just automate all my workflows away, because it just comes up with these moments of just like absolute insanity. And part of that, guys, is because there's certain tasks that AI can do really well, and there's certain tasks it can't. And the way that the U.S. Center for AI Safety breaks these down is into well-defined tasks and into messy jobs. So what are some examples of these? Well, well-defined tasks are great at summarizing documents, writing code, classifying images, answering questions, which again is, I gotta say, I love using ChatGPT as like a customer success bot. Like I'll go to a website and like try to find the answer to a question on the certain SaaS product, whatever, can't find it. So I just go to ChatGPT and it's incredibly helpful. Like unbelievably helpful. However, you got to take it with a grain of salt because sometimes it gives you stuff that's just flat out wrong. Just flat out wrong. Anyway, so those are well-defined tasks, but it really struggles with messy jobs, like communicating, prioritizing, handling exceptions. It's like it just can't get through an exception, or like you throw it a curveball and it just absolutely goes blank. Judgment calls, negotiating. It has a hard time with some of these like messy type of jobs. Great when it's well-defined and clear, really struggles when you throw it for a loop. And again, I find that AI does a great job getting me from 0 to 75. I could, the other day, and I don't think I recorded a tutorial on this. I think I did it in a webinar for some of the guys who wanted to go a little bit deeper with me on what I'm doing with marketing and YouTube. But I was able to build out lead magnet, web page, form submission, the entire automation in my CRM, plus all the emails for the drip campaign, all in seconds using AI. And then I would just go in and take it from 80% to 100%, kind of like fill in the blanks, add in some of my knowledge. So combining my personal knowledge with the AI is really powerful. I could not just automate the whole thing. I mean, I guess I could, but it just does some wonky stuff. You know what I'm saying? Give me an example in the comments below, some wonky stuff that AI does, stuff that makes you say, wow, this is amazing, but also retarded. Put it in the comments below. If you have a great comment, guys, I will pin it. I've pinned your great comments in the past. I will pin them in the future. And by the way, I was just looking, this is another quick side note, I was looking at the data for the YouTube channel the other day. I found that new viewership is down, probably just, sometimes new views come from like a video spike. I've had some videos spiked 150,000 views, 500,000 views, but haven't had a big spike like that in the past month. But what I did find is that returning viewership is way up. So props to all you guys for following, commenting, help to kind of like build this movement of guys who are actually concerned about our jobs, but also excited about the possibilities. I think this is really important. Anyway, so that's the difference between well-defined tasks and messy jobs. But what's really interesting in the report as well is they highlight this paradox called the Jevons paradox. And basically what this states is that as technology makes something better and cheaper to produce, we actually consume more of it. And it highlights that, we can highlight as a couple examples here, as coal becomes cheaper, or coal becomes much cheaper as we built better steam engines, and as a result of the coal becoming cheaper, because the steam engine technology increased, we just burned way more coal. Okay, again, quick example of that. Another thing that's interesting here is code is now way cheaper to produce, but American software developers reached a record of 1,875,000 workers here in the United States. So coding became much cheaper, hired a bunch more coders. Interesting. Another example here is radiologists. Dude, this is shocking to me because I was certain that radiologists were completely cooked by AI. AI is really good at finding health issues in x-rays and MRIs and radiology type of jobs. But radiologists have actually increased 20% since 2016. Which is very interesting. The real threat, I think, that we look at here is that what AI does is it really empowers the consumer. So what you might not see is that all the jobs are replaced, but rather consumers become much more educated, much more transparent when it comes to data, and they ended up self-servicing. They don't need you anymore to solve their problems because they can use AI. I'll give you an example here. Travel agents. When's the last time you used a travel agent? Travel agencies are dead because everyone just self-services and goes straight to the internet to book their trip. Insurance as well. We covered insurance yesterday. Like, I mean, someone who was in insurance for a decade, like, you don't need an insurance agent to sell you a policy anymore. You just go to their website, you pick out what you want, and you're done. You're good. You don't need an underwriter to review it. You only need to ask the underwriter questions. All that gets done automatically through the computer. So I think what we're going to see here is that the real threat is maybe not, we don't need a human to do it anymore, but the humans are just using AI, which obviously indirectly leads to less jobs. You don't need the people to do it because humans are using AI. But here's the thing, guys, it doesn't just stop there. The real threat that we start to see here, and I just don't think it's talked about enough, is the de-skilling that's taking place. De-skilling is a huge threat. This is a concept that we've talked about in the past. I haven't brought it up much recently, but what's happening here, as more experts are using AI to handle as a support system, handling and reducing these like routine cognitive type of jobs, it reduces the need for the entry-level employee, the entry-level rung of the career ladder. And so what happens is these junior employees are practicing less, they're reading less, critical thinking declines. All my dads out there, you know that kids are completely cooked here because they're just asking Google and asking YouTube and asking ChatGPT for all their answers. Like, when is the last time a kid actually read a book and wrote a research paper on it? That might be like, I don't know. I actually forced my kids to do it. My daughter is 10, and I say, hey, you want to get screen time or whatever, you got to read a book and you got to write me a research paper. You get in trouble, read for 15 minutes, then write about what you read. I think that's important. But critical thinking is in decline. Expertise, like, where are our next level of experts going to come? You want to get into the legal field. We actually covered how AI is replacing lawyers. I'll post a link to that video here. You want to get into the legal field? You got to read. You got to do the work. But who does that anymore? The owners of these law firms, they're not hiring these like entry-level jobs anymore. They're just having AI do it, and then they're going over the results. So anyway, that's absolutely crazy. And then the final thought here in closing is just looking at the data, looking at the numbers themselves. And the Center for AI Safety is a 501c3 nonprofit based in San Francisco. And what I think is interesting is, who are your donors? Who are the guys and girls and organizations that are backing you with this data? Because basically the conclusion of the report is that AI is actually not replacing remote jobs. And we talked about this in a video a couple days ago, how a year ago, CEOs, tech bros were saying that AI is going to replace all the jobs. Everyone's cooked, 50% of jobs are gone. And now they've kind of doubled back and said, well, actually, that's not happening. AI is great. AIs make us more productive. Look at our bottom line. It's all improving. They've shifted on a dime. And I have to wonder, how are the donors? How is the money backing the Center for AI Safety? How is it changing the results? How are they shifting the narrative there? I am curious about that, because the reality is they do not publicly disclose a complete list of donors. Interesting. Food for thought. What do you guys think? Put in the comments below. If you like today's video, like, subscribe, you know what to do. And again, if you really enjoyed the video, you can check out yesterday's video where we go deep on how AI is completely changing the insurance world, which I think is fascinating. So anyway, if you're new here, welcome. If you are a veteran, what's up? It's good to see you. You guys have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.